When the Thunder moved to Oklahoma City in 2008, it was a very big deal. Not a whole lot of people, especially outside the state of Oklahoma, thought of OKC and Oklahoma in general as a major league market. Well, since then, the Thunder have proven them wrong. OKC has won a whole lot of regular season games. They've made deep playoff runs. They've even been to the NBA Finals. But it wasn't until this last June that the Thunder won an NBA championship. Oklahoma City and Oklahoma had the best basketball team in the world. Because of this, I've been thinking about the Thunder a lot lately and their impact on Oklahoma City and Oklahoma in general. So it's only fitting that that's the topic of the premiere episode of my first podcast. And it's also only fitting that berry-tramel is my first guest. He's been a longtime columnist in the state of Oklahoma, covering sports in Oklahoma for nearly half a century. He's the Tulsa World columnist, and he's one of the most respected voices in sports in the state of Oklahoma. We talked for about 30 minutes on all things Thunder, about their impact financially on the city and also the state, how they have shifted the perception of Oklahoma, not only here in the United States, but around the world, and also where this championship run for the Thunder ranks all time in Oklahoma sports history. This is One More Thing with Nathan Thompson. All right, Barry, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Glad to do it, Nate. Miss you on the football trail.
I know it's going to be a little weird for me. My first year of more than a quarter century of covering sports here in Oklahoma that I won't be out there in the field. I'll be in the newsroom here covering the news, but I know you guys will do a great job covering it. Let's talk about, though, one of the biggest stories. You know, I said I've been covering sports in Oklahoma for a quarter century. You've almost been doing it for a half a century, since the late 70s at the Norman Transcript, the Oklahoma, now the Tulsa World. So you've got a good feel of kind of how big of a story the Thunder is working its way through and winning an NBA championship. Where would you rank this among all of the sports stories that not only a sports story, but it's become a news story as well?
Well, I think it goes to the top because it basically permeates throughout every sector of the state. It reaches all sports fans and reaches non-sports fans. You know, the Oklahoma football passion is heavy, it's mighty, but there's a significant percentage of the state that don't care, in fact, does care and does not want the Sooners to do well and turns it off when Oklahoma's riding high. That's not the case with the NBA, not the case with Thunder success. Everybody's on board, everybody's on the bandwagon, everybody unites. So I think when the Thunder does well, it pulls people together. When they win a championship, it invigorates the state like very few things can.
You know, I've been thinking a lot about this, especially since this playoff run in the NBA championship, of the impact that the Thunder's had on the Oklahoma City, of course, but also just the state as a whole. First of all, for those decades you were covering sports here in Oklahoma before the Thunder got here, did you ever think they would have a professional team like this?
No, not really. There in the 90s, Oklahoma City took a good run at the National Hockey League, ended up losing out in the expansion lottery, if you want to call it that. You know, the Oklahoma Outlaws of the USFL came to Tulsa back in the 80s, and, there was hope that the USFL might become a worthy competitor to the NFL. Didn't really happen, but, the Oklahoma Outlaws were really popular playing there at Old Skelly Stadium for a little bit. So there were uprisings like that. I remember a famous interview when I was a kid in the mid-'70s. Alvin Adams was a Phoenix Suns rookie. He'd come out of Putnam City High School, went to OU, did well, goes to the Suns, becomes NBA Rookie of the Year, had a really good start to what became a very good career. He was on a news station once. Bob Berry, famed Bob Berry, was interviewing Alvin Adams, and Bob Berry asked Alvin Adams, "You ever see the NBA potentially coming to Oklahoma City?" And Alvin Adams gave the obligatory, "Well, I don't see why not. Phoenix and Oklahoma City, similar cities, and it's working in Phoenix. It could work in Oklahoma City." But there was no spark in Alvin Adams' eye. There was no lift in his voice. You sort of knew that he was just sort of patronizing Bob Sr. There was no momentum for that kind of thought. It's the first time a lot of us had even thought of it. And lo and behold, 20 years later, no closer. And then, of course, the events of Hurricane Katrina and the Hornets and Clay Bennett and all those things conspired together to make it possible. And the NBA just worked wonders in Oklahoma right at the start. And indeed, we now not just have a franchise, but a model franchise. But no, there for many, many years. And the truth is, Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma City as a market, is really not big enough to be on the list. That we needed some fortunate things to happen to give Oklahoma City and the state of Oklahoma a chance. And when it happened, made the most of it. Everybody worked together, and it's been a runaway success. But there was no great reason for optimism until all those things did happen.
Now, when the Thunder moved here in 2008, compared to now in 2025, Oklahoma City looks a lot different. It's a lot different city. The state is different as well. How big of an impact or how big of a part do you think the Thunder played in that transformation of the city?
Well, I think the Thunder. First of all, I think the transformation of Oklahoma City began before the Thunder. That's what made the NBA a viable option when the Hornets needed a home. So the Oklahoma City didn't just luck into the NBA. It did a lot of work. It prepared itself, and when opportunity arose, it was ready. But I think since the NBA has gotten here, it has elevated the city and the state in remarkable ways. The NBA is a worldwide enterprise. Unlike, say, college football, which is huge in America, college football in the United States is a bigger business operation than the NBA. More people are interested, more people watch, those kinds of things. However, college football really doesn't expand beyond the borders. It does with the NBA all over the world, every continent. Europe, hugely popular when it comes to the NBA. Asians, Africans, South Americans, everybody follows the NBA. And for Oklahoma City to get into that club and then prosper really elevates the profile. So I think that helps with a lot of things. It helps with business. It helps with tourism. It helps with just the image of Oklahoma and Oklahoma City worldwide, and that pays dividends in a lot of different ways. Most of them are abstract more than concrete, but they still are just as relevant. I mean, it's a real thing. Be walking down. I remember we were my wife and I a decade ago. We're in Venice, and we're walking down the narrow streets of Venice, which the streets are really on the side of a canal. There's a guy walking toward us with a Thunder shirt on, clearly a European guy, and just that kind of stuff. Oklahoma City has a visibility that only the NBA could provide.
And you can definitely see that covering an NBA Finals. I was there for a few of the games, one, 2, and 7. Just the makeup of the media, way different than I've been to national championships in college football. You don't have that international presence of the media there covering it for the rest of the world that you do for an NBA Finals.
Yeah, I think I estimated 300 international journalists at the NBA Finals. I mean, I met people from Thailand, from Brazil, all over Europe, of course. Just people, journalists, media people from everywhere covering the NBA. And, the press conferences were a hoot because, Chinese, all kinds of accents, all kinds of, when they were lucky enough to get Lou Dort up on the stage. Of course, Lou is fluent in French. Here comes some questions in French. And so, the international media is quite prevalent at the NBA Finals.
And the Thunder is going to have even a more impact on the city coming up because they have this $1 billion stadium arena that they're going to build. The renderings have been released recently. They look beautiful, amazing. That's supposed to open in 2028. How much more of an impact will that have? Because it's not just going to be an arena. It's supposed to be kind of a district with other things cropping up around it as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I assume the entertainment district will become quite the magnet for not just NBA fans, but people just looking for a new place to go. the when you look at the history of arenas in Oklahoma, we've got a pretty good track record. When the Myriad opened in the early '70s, it was a phenomenal arena, downtown Oklahoma City, state of the art, really cool looking. When the Mabee Center opened on the campus of Oral Roberts in the '70s, it was modern, it was cool, it was exotic, lots of excitement over that. But other times we've sort of gone humdrum, right? I mean, the Ford Center, which became Chesapeake Energy Arena, which became Paycom, where the Thunder plays now, it was a sort of a nuts and bolts arena, nothing to get excited about. It had no wow factor. And now the Thunder has risen to such amazing heights. We've been talking about it. The building in which they play does not match that. However, that will change here in about 3 years because it is it's a phenomenal. The idea in Oklahoma is that the OKC is building a basketball version of Camden Yards, and what happened in Baltimore 35 years ago was the opening of a new age of ballparks that was phenomenal and unlike anything anybody had seen. We'll see if the new Thunder Arena can match that. There's been other great NBA arenas into it. Down in LA, where the Clippers play, is a phenomenal new arena. The new arena in Milwaukee is unbelievable. So it's a high standard to meet. I don't know if Oklahoma City can become a pioneer. I don't know if the new arena will break ground, but it certainly will move to near the top of the best places to play in the NBA.
Now in 2028, OKC is also going to host some Olympic events in canoe slalom and softball. Do you think that would have happened if the Thunder wouldn't have kind of established Oklahoma City as such a sports city, or is that independent of the Thunder
Well,
being here?
it's independent because the facilities. I mean, the Olympics are coming to Oklahoma because of the unique facilities. Oklahoma City's got the best softball park in the world. Not any question about that. Nobody can touch it. Oklahoma City also has that, all the water sports there on the Oklahoma River with the whitewater rafting and the canoeing and just the setup of all that. There's a few places like that, but not many, and certainly none in greater Los Angeles. So, having those facilities made Oklahoma City clearly a target for the LA Olympics, which is trying to break even or make money, doesn't want to build a bunch of venues that won't be in use when the Olympics are gone. But it's a lot easier to make that sell when you're going to take part of your Olympics, move them 1,500 miles away, when you move them to a place that's considered big league, right? I mean, if Oklahoma City was not in the NBA and the LA Olympics wanted to go to a place like Oklahoma City, most of the world would not have heard of Oklahoma City if it weren't for the Thunder. Internationally, we don't have much of a presence. I remember a friend of mine lived here. He moved away. He got a job. Basically, he could live anywhere in Middle America he wanted. He was going to do a lot of traveling. They just wanted him to be able to get places quickly. And they said, live wherever you want to. Well, within reason. And he figured they meant they'd like him to live in Dallas or maybe Kansas City or potentially Denver, Houston, something like that. But he wanted to live here. And so he said, how about I live in Oklahoma City? And he said his new employer said, sure. He said they didn't even think about saying no. And he thinks it's because of the profile that was created by the Thunder. So it's a natural association that it's a big league place, a major league market. And I think that's the same thing with the Olympics. Trying to justify moving part of your games this far away, you better do it to a place that's acceptable to most people. I think Oklahoma City's got this status that says, oh, it's a major league market. Knock yourself out.
It'd be tough to argue that the Thunder moving here has been anything but overwhelmingly positive for the city of Oklahoma City and the state. But have you seen any unintended consequences at all? Have you heard any complaints about the Thunder being here whenever you've been around other people?
Well, I mean, I think a couple of things. One is I think it probably has hurt some of the other sports in terms of attendance and perhaps corporate support. College basketball is not nearly as popular now as it was 15 years ago. Now, some of that is probably the NBA in town, but some of it also is the decline of college basketball nationwide. There's only a few true hotbeds of college basketball. The fervor that we saw 20 years ago is not prevalent most places. But it's clearly it's harder for Oklahoma and Oklahoma State to sort of create the energy that we had in this state over college basketball in the 90s, in the 80s, with Billy Tubbs, Eddie Sutton, Kelvin Sampson, that crowd. University of Tulsa certainly had more than its share of success with a variety of coaches. That has dipped, and a lot of that is just the general demise of college basketball. But some of that is when you're in direct comparison with the NBA, college basketball comes up short, both in the quality of the players, the quality of the production, the entertainment value, those things. After you've watched Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 2 or 3 times in a week, to watch an Oklahoma Vanderbilt game, an Oklahoma State Texas Tech game, a little bit harder to sell. So I think some of the sports have taken a hit, but that's not the only problem with those sports. I mean, we've seen other college sports rise in the last 15 years. Softball's a runaway success and those kinds of things. So that's the only one that I can really see. It's the only one I can think of. Now, there are a few people over here on our side of the state in the 918, a little bit resentful. Some people wanted the Thunder to be called the Oklahoma Thunder and have sort of had some bad feelings when the official name was Oklahoma City. And lots of teams have gone with the state moniker. The Utah Jazz, the Minnesota Timberwolves. There are others, but the city of Oklahoma City is the one that put up the money, passed the sales tax, funded the arena, drew the team to the state. So you can understand their desire to have their name, Oklahoma City, in the title of the team. And I think Tulsans have done a fabulous job of supporting the Thunder. Anywhere from 10 to 15% of most Thunder crowds are from the 918 area code or Tulsa County, ever how you want to split that up. So Tulsans have done a great job getting down the turnpike and supporting the Thunder, and I think it's a relationship that will continue to prosper.
Now, obviously, Thunder fans are on cloud 9 now after getting their first championship. You saw that in the parade with hundreds of thousands of people out there on a weekday, so that was pretty impressive. But, sometimes people, whenever they're up on the pedestal, they start to worry about that going away, right? You reported recently that this model ownership that the Thunder has had could sell the team soon. Do you think that is a concern for people? How soon do you think that'll be? And will that be a problem for the Thunder as an organization?
Well, I've been told that the ownership group would like to keep the team until the new arena opens in 28. The fruits of their labor, they would like to enjoy them. But I would expect that not long after that we will see an ownership change. The economics demand it. Just they can make too much money. They can make tenfold on their investment from 20 years ago. Most of the primary guys, the foursome that had the biggest shares in 2006 of the team, were putting in basically $70 million thereabouts. I think they're going to be able to sell this team for $4 billion. If you own 22% of that, I mean, you're looking at $800 million, $900 million, more than 10 times as much what you paid for it. You can't. That would be economic malfeasance not to sell. It would be malfeasance against your family and your heirs not to sell. So I think we will see the Thunder sold. It would be nice if they were sold to Oklahomans. I don't know if that'll happen. There's only a limited number of Oklahomans with the means to shell out $4 billion. But I think the city and the state has done enough to ensure the financial success of the franchise, primarily Sam Presti's great governance over the operation, but also with the new arena opening, that the idea of moving the Thunder out of Oklahoma City would be a distant idea, and it'd be pretty much assumed that the Thunder would stay in Oklahoma City for the long term. But it's never good to lose an ownership group like this. This is a pristine ownership. Clay Bennett's leadership is unbelievably solid. This is a guy who, in the smallest or second smallest market of the league, has provided Sam Presti with as much resources as he needs to produce a winner. I mean, that year, the Carmelo Anthony year, 2018, the Thunder, the Oklahoma City Thunder, spent the most money in NBA payroll. More than the Lakers, more than the Knicks. I mean, that's just unbelievable to even think about. And he's given lots of good direction with Sam Presti. He's not done like some owners, stuck his thumb in the stew. He's been just a sublime owner. He will be very difficult to replace.
How important is it, do you think, to the owners, to Clay Bennett, that not only do they sell someone that's committed to keeping the team in Oklahoma, but they kind of are committed, the new owner, to having that kind of structure where if they have a Sam Presti, they leave him to the basketball decisions. Is that important to them, or are they just worried more about getting the best price, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's important to them, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what a guy will do or group will do when they buy a basketball team. You know, some ownerships look fantastic and then, aren't, and some you're not sure about and turn out to be great. You just don't know. The model is pretty clear. Doesn't mean people follow the model. We've seen, the Lakers, perhaps the most, the Lakers rank with the New York Yankees as the biggest brand in American sport. And yet the Lakers for 20 to 30 years have been run as a mom and pop organization until the recent announced sale. The Knickerbockers have horrible ownership, haven't won a title in 52 years, and have really struggled. Excuse me. So you just don't know what you're going to see out of an owner. You can take your best guess. I mean, I would assume that the quality of the ownership would be part of the process when they decide who to sell to, because the ownership group gets to decide, but the league also must approve, a sale. So I think you'll see the league be somewhat involved in making sure that, hey, this is good, solid. The NBA does its homework, doesn't always get it right, but generally does want quality ownership. So I'm reasonably optimistic that the Thunder will have very good ownership if and when the franchise is sold. As good as Clay Bennett? Probably not.
Let's talk about this magical season that the Thunder just had. And it wasn't necessarily smooth sailing through the regular season with the injuries, like with Chet, who missed so many games. And then through the playoffs, they had a couple of game sevens there. It was very much in doubt a couple of times. When you look back at this in 10, 20 years from now, kind of what's the thing that will stand out to you most about this season?
Well, I think the thing I think it contains historical relevance is just the dominance. I mean, the Thunder set an NBA record for margin of victory, what they call, rating in NBA analytics. I mean, the Thunder is, didn't just win 68 games. 6 teams in NBA history have won at least 68 teams. One of them was this Oklahoma City team. But they just won in commanding fashion, playing very few close games, winning in dominating style. If you'd have told anybody going, before the season, you're going to do that, you're going to win 68, you're going to set an NBA point differential record, and you're also going to, win the playoffs with a record of, what would it be, 16-7. I mean, that's historical dominance. We got a little jaded by the end of the regular season because the Thunder was winning so dominantly. that some people were a little bit disappointed when that dominance didn't continue into the playoffs, even though the Thunder really was dominant even in the playoffs. Very few close games, particularly at home. The Thunder 16-7, but they lost game ones to Denver and to Indianapolis, the Pacers, and those were games they just sort of threw away. They had substantial leads in the last 3 minutes and just played poorly in the last 3 minutes of games and got beat on late shots. So the Thunder was jumping this close to 16-5 and a total domination of the playoffs, similar to what we saw in the regular season. So in every way, this was not just a successful season, but it was an historically dominant season, the likes of which will be very difficult to ever replicate.
Is there a moment that maybe if you could bottle it and give it to people outside of Oklahoma so that they kind of know and feel what it's like to be here for the Thunder, to be here for a game and what it means to this Oklahoma City and this state? Is there one you could pick?
Well, I mean, I thought the parade was just phenomenal in that, I always had this fantasy. They got the canal, which is really cool, and the canal runs into the river. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if they could do the whole parade on boats and they could go down the canal and then they could go out into the river and go down one side, go down one bank and come around to the other. People in Scissortail Park. You could have a really cool thing. But I thought the parade, the way it turned out, was just fabulous, with the players, including SGA, jumping off the floats and getting down and walking the parade themselves, often, SGA and everybody else with the trophy and slapping hands with the fans, and really made it, brought the fans into the parade. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Not really seen anything like it in championship celebration history. When you think of championship parades, you think of the Canyon of Heroes in Midtown Manhattan or Lower Manhattan, where all the champions, whether it's the Yankees or the Jets or the Mets or the old Knicks, whoever, million people cheering them from high rises and skyscrapers and going up and down the famous streets of Manhattan. And yet nobody's getting out and mingling with the riffraff of New York City. And here comes the Thunder on a hot day, and they jump. Their shirts are over their back, and they're holding the golden trophy, and letting people rub the basketball and slap hands with their heroes. I just thought that really embodied the whole idea that everybody's in this together. I thought it was a very cool moment.
Now, this team is in unbelievable shape with their three main guys now, all locked up for half a decade. You've got Shea, who's just now entering his prime. You've got Chet and Dub, who are years away from their traditional prime. The NBA has become kind of this no dynasty team over the last almost decade. The last team to win back-to-back titles was the Warriors in 2018. Is this a team that you think can kind of get the NBA back to having a dominant team who might win back-to-back titles or maybe 2 and 3 years or something like that? Can this Thunder team do that?
Well, clearly the Thunder's got the best roster in the NBA and the best future. Now, after next season, it's going to be harder and harder to keep everybody together. I mean, if you love Aaron Wiggins, better love him quick. He may be gone. If you can't live without Isaiah Hartenstein, make out your will now, because I don't know if he'll be back a year from now. But for this coming season, the Thunder's intact. They got the best roster. They should be in great shape to repeat. Doesn't mean you will. I mean, the Thunder, had to huff and puff just to beat the Pacers. They had to huff and puff just to beat the Nuggets. The Nuggets are even better now. They still got Nikola Jokic. So NBA championships are not won in the summer. We like to speculate about rosters. We like to think about, what we can do to improve this team or that team. But all a general manager can do is put the team together. It's still got to win it in the spring on the court. But the Thunder's in better shape to do that. And here's what we know about the Thunder. the Thunder will be contenders for years to come. They will be in they'll be in the race because of the roster building by Sam Presti, the core talent level. Those things would still be high. The Thunder for the next 4 or 5 years, there's no reason other than calamity of injury or the breakdown of society. That's all that would keep the Thunder from being in the running among the 2 or 3 best teams, and for all we know, the best team. But you still have to win it.
Yeah, and it always takes a little luck, and injuries can derail any great team, as we've seen in the past with the Thunder in the KD and Russ years. Now, Barry, I appreciate this. Before I wrap up my podcast, I like to ask the guest, what's the one thing on your mind that you can't stop thinking about right now? It doesn't have to be Thunder related, just anything that's really on your mind right now.
Well, football's on my mind, and here's what's chief on my mind a lot is we're starting earlier and earlier. Oklahoma State starts on August 28th. OU and Tulsa start on August 30th. And folks, it's going to be hot, hot, hot for those first few games. We've got 4 college football Saturdays before the official start of autumn. If you're a fan going to the games, prepare. Don't get yourself overheated. Figure out a way to hydrate a bunch. Stay cool. Don't succumb to the heat in your passion for college football. Let's all stay safe.
And that's true for high school football too. I remember week 0 used to be nothing really. Hardly no one played in week 0. Now, like half the teams or so play. You've been thinking about this lot. You talked about it right now. Is this something you're not a fan of? Is the earlier and earlier start to the football season?
Oh, you know what? I actually like it because the more the merrier. I mean, we can't push it back anymore. In the old days, Bud Wilkinson, the Sooners often started the second half of September was when they started, but they only played 10 games. There was no playoff. Now we got 12 games, a championship game for the conferences, then a playoff. You got to start the games pretty quick to get them in. So I understand it. It's hotter now, it seems like, than it used to be. We just got to prepare. More night games, the better. If you get one of those, day games, even at 11 a.m., fourth quarter hits at 1:30. It's 98 degrees. Not a lot of air movement. Just be prepared.
All right, Barry, I appreciate you coming on to talk some Thunder, and stay hydrated in those football games coming up here in late August. And I appreciate it.
Thanks, Nate. Anytime.
Thanks to berry-tramel for being the guest on the premiere episode of my new podcast. He, of course, has a lot of insight and knowledge on this topic. Make sure you read all of his columns on the Tulsa World website, and hey, you might want a physical copy, so go buy a Tulsa World. Now, the idea behind this podcast is each week, with the podcast dropping on Thursdays, it'll be different topics. There's something I've been thinking about that's been on my mind. It could be sports, it could be news, it could be entertainment or culture. The topics will vary wildly. It'll be kind of a roller coaster of a ride, and I hope you take that ride with me. This has been the premiere episode of One More Thing with Nathan Thompson.